Welcome, and I hope all of you can find seats. This is a wonderful day to have this meeting and great celebration forthcoming. So my name's Todd Kimmelshoe. I'm the chairman of the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency, and we have a great celebration today. But first, unfortunately, we have to have our business meeting, which I promise is going to go very quickly. And then we'll have a great celebration and time for us to all to get together and reminisce and talk about the great things that this organization has done. So with that, if you would all, well, first of all, let's do a roll call. Before we get into formalities, a roll call. Go ahead, Tara.
Okay, Matt Conant. Bruce Johnson.
Here.
Todd Kimmelshoe.
Here.
Bo Shepherd.
Here.
I have Sean Harris on Zoom. Grace Espandola.
Here.
Charlie Hoppin.
Yes.
Al Matna.
Yes.
Lac Gog.
Yes.
Mike Morris.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds like we have a quorum, which is wonderful. I'd invite all of you to stand and salute the flag and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thank you all, man. This is not something we're used to have this many people in our audience, but we're glad you're all here, and I'm glad we're able to meet in person. That's something that's very special in these days. So, with that, our first item of business is our consent calendar, and I would ask any of the board members if they would like to remove anything from the consent calendar, and so we can discuss it.
Move to approve items 1 through 7.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second to approve the consent calendar. I'll just take a voice vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed?
Through the chair, because we have someone on Zoom, do we need to do a roll call on that?
Yeah, I guess we could do that. We'll do a roll call.
Matt Conant.
Aye.
Bruce Johnson.
Yes.
Todd Kimmelshoe.
Yes.
Bo Shepherd. Sean Harris. He's going to have to type his answer in. Grace Espandola.
Yes.
Charlie Hoppin. Yes. Al Matna. Lac Gog.
Yes.
Mike Morris.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds like it passed unanimously. That's wonderful. Okay, that was our business meeting. And yeah, thank you very much.
Very efficient. Yeah.
So yeah, we are an efficient group here, and a group that gets things done. So again, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you for being here today. For those of you who don't know who I am, Todd Kimmelshoe. I'm a newly elected and sworn in member of the Board of Supervisors in Butte County. So it's my honor. It was my turn. It was Butte County's turn to serve as this chair of this fine organization. So I got thrown in here. And what I've learned about this organization is, I was telling Michael today that it's my favorite organization, my favorite board to be on, because this board actually gets something done. And I think that's a testament to all of you that came before us that have been on this board. And so I'm going to read just a few bullet points, and then we're going to have some speakers speak in regards to what the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency has done, SBFCA. Love that acronym. And then we will open it up to our board members to speak, and then anyone else that would like to speak. And after that, we will adjourn our meeting and convene outside for discussion. Is that right, Michael? Am I on track?
Chairman, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So, again, this is a celebration of the certification of a 200-year level of flood protection for our levee system on the west side of the Feather River. So this is a fantastic celebration. So again, greetings from our board. And like I said, I'm fairly new to this position, and so I will let my colleagues on the board speak more later on in the meeting about many of our accomplishments. But let me give you a quick little background. First, the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency, SBFCA, was formed in 2007, and its main mission was to provide flood risk reduction to the Sutter Butte Basin. Construction of the Feather River West Levee Phase 1 project began in 2013. The agency continued to build levee improvements each year to get us to where we are today. 37 miles of flood protection and levee improvements from the Thermalito area of Butte County to the Star Bend area south of Yuba City in Sutter County. SBFCA has now completed the improvements to achieve the 200-year level of flood protection for our urban system that protects 98,000 people and $7.1 billion in assets. So pursuant to Senate Bill 5 requirement for urban areas to achieve that 200-year level of protection by 2025, this is something we're very proud of. The Sutter Butte's Flood Control Agency is the first flood control agency in the Central Valley to improve and certify their levee system for 200 years, for the 200 years of protection, level of protection. SBFCA has been working with the Department of Water Resources and the U.S. Corps of Engineers for close to 15 years now, and it's proud of the accomplishments of that partnership, and it has been a true partnership. From the passage of our local assessment district in 2010, years of planning and engineering work, to the U.S. Corps of Engineers feasibility studies and chief's report, to construction efforts at local and federal levels, SBFCA is proud of its role in providing the local leadership, and we have a lot of local leaders here, technical expertise, local funding required to meet the state's goals as outlined in the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan and reduce flood risk for our region. SBFCA is also very proud of the multi-benefit improvements of this project, including work done on the Oroville Wildlife Area in Butte County. That project provided flood risk reduction benefits, a direct connection to the river, providing rearing habitat for salmon, invasive species treatment, ecosystem restoration, and recreational improvements to the area. So here we go. This is now completed, our urban project, and it's a huge success for our agency and for this community. But I want everyone to know that SBFCA's mission is yet to be completed, and we are not yet completed because the southern basin is still at risk of flooding from the substandard levees along the Sutter bypass, and we will remain focused on reducing that risk in the near future. And with that, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce the speakers, and then after the speakers are done, we'll let board members speak as to their experiences and what SBFCA has done. Thank you.
Sounds good, Mr. Chairman. So thank you. The item before the board today is to approve and post the Urban Level of Protection EVD1 substantial evidence in the record for the Feather River West Levee Project 1, acting as the local management agency, and approve resolution number 2021-9, renaming the project in honor of Francis Silva. So I don't usually work from a script during these meetings, but because of the importance today, I wanted to write down exactly what I wanted to say and who I wanted to acknowledge. We have a lot of people here today. So after I introduce the item, Mr. Chairman, I'll then introduce the speakers, and then we'll turn it back over to the board like you just said. I also want to highlight that we recently lost one of our most passionate and determined board members with the passing of Francis Silva. Francis lived and breathed flood protection and was a driving force behind the SBFCA Levee Improvement Program. Today, we will honor Francis with the adoption of a resolution renaming the Feather River West Levee Project 1 in his name. The resolution will be read into the record by Chairman Kimmelshue at the conclusion of this agenda item. We will also share a video of Francis and Sally Serger, who also unfortunately passed away earlier this year, at the end of the board meeting today. Sally was a driving force behind the successful Prop 218 Benefit Assessment District, and she was an alternate on our board representing Levee District 1. Sally was in attendance at almost every one of our board meetings, and she was great to have on board. This excellent video was produced by Chuck Smith of Sutter County, so thank you, Chuck, for producing the video. I'd like to take note of all the guests we have with us here today. Most of the folks present have dedicated a lot of time and effort working on this project. Some have even worked on the project for over a decade. Thank you for all attending today and for all your contributions to this agency's success and for delivering this flood risk reduction project to our community as promised. I also want to acknowledge that many people here today actually helped form this agency back in 2007 and helped pass the successful Prop 218 property assessment in 2010. The assessment, approved by over 70% of the voters, provides the local cost share for all the work we have accomplished and will accomplish in the future. We also have many past board members in attendance today, and I want to thank you all for your leadership and guidance and for keeping staff on point and delivering this project to the community, so thank you. SBFCA and Levy District 1 has now completed the levee construction work to achieve our stated goal of 200-year level of flood protection for the urban levees. And our design team, under Chris Fritz's leadership, has assembled the EBD1 packages documenting this fact. These packages have been thoroughly reviewed and approved by our independent panel of experts, and thank you, Tom Smith, for being here. And they have produced a report that is included in our EBD1 finding packages. Once the SBFCA board approves the EBD1 packages, including the engineer's report, we will work with our member land use agencies to make the necessary findings based upon the substantial evidence in the record produced by SBFCA in order to comply with Senate Bill 5 requirements. Now I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman. Well, actually, I'm going to introduce the speakers. We kind of changed the format a little bit. So we have some very special guests here with us today. And our first speaker is Mr. Bill Edgar, who is the president of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, and he's the former and first SBFCA executive director. So Bill, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Whoop. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Chairman Kimmelshoe and members of the board, let's see, and recognizing other people, Director Carla Nemeth is here today, as well as other folks that I've known over a number of years. I see John Miller and Barbara LeVake and a number of other folks that I've known for a number of years. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here this afternoon. As Mike indicated, I'm the president of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, and I don't have the other members with me this afternoon, but we have our executive director, Leslie Gallagher, with me. I've had the good fortune of being involved with this project at several levels over the number of years. First as executive director of the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency, and later as my present role as the president of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. When I was last here, it was groundbreaking for the Feather River West Levee Project #1, and at that event, I had the privilege and honor of presenting Francis Silva with a flood board resolution honoring his many years of service for the benefit of the community. Francis was a founding member of the SBFCA board and a leader in flood protection in this region since 1938. He was a survivor of the 1955 flood event. He was, as they know Francis in this community, he was the Lion of the Levees. That's what they used to call him, and that was his nickname, and he loved it. And he always joked with me that he'd be lucky to live long enough to see this project finished. And personally, I'm grateful and pleased that he did. Also, we, as Mike indicated, lost another champion of flood risk reduction in Sally Serger. Sally was instrumental in raising the awareness through her advocacy efforts, like her community levee tours that she always took community members out and showed them what a levee was and what it was protecting and so on. And she was a staunch supporter of this agency as well as many of the activities that we had here. She co-led with Barbara LeVake the advocacy campaign for the benefit assessment to raise the local cost share of the project. Both she and Francis are and will be sorely missed. I should also mention that Larry Montna and Dan Silva were both former supervisors for Sutter County, and they were flood advocates and sat on the Safeco board and were champion of the levee improvements that we made. Back in 2007, as we were getting SBFCA organized and the strength and the stability of the West Feather River levees were unacceptable, and the communities it was supposed to protect were at great risk. And there were several local tax measures to raise money for the repairs had recently failed up here. A series of patchwork projects were undertaken by the levee maintaining agencies as resources were allowed, but they were nothing but Band-Aids. There were more questions than answers. What would we need to fix? How are we going to do it? What remedial action would be taken? How could we leverage state and local resources, and what about a federal investment? All of these questions we didn't really have good answers to, but we moved forward, and that's what got this project underway and completed. In 2009, under Francis's careful watch and Al Montana's gentle pushing and amazing connections, and you know what that's about, Levee District 1 was very successful in securing some first-round property money to construct Star Bend levee setback. The project provided some critical, important momentum for the community. We're getting something done. It would eventually become the anchor of this project that we're certifying today. And Dave Peterson, I was very happy at that Star Bend event, but Dave Peterson, you know how he talks sometimes. That after completion of the Star Bend project, he said, well, we only have a little over a half a mile done. We only have 37 and a half miles to do yet. And I thought, oh, God, this is never going to work. But in 2010, when we proposed an assessment to property owners to raise the local cost share for repairs, we had a project concept that included fixing the west levee from one end to the other. But we didn't have any specifics. We hedged our bets that the state would come through with the funding if we could put up the local cost share. If we had waited for all the answers, all the specific answers that were being asked, we'd still be waiting. And at the time, our mantra was, we just need to get started. Get the sticks in the ground. That was our mantra, and that's what we tried to do. We were certain that once we got started, the rest would fall into place. And that generally has held true due to the dogged determination and unwavering commitment from this board, the SBFCA board at that time, unwavering commitments from the parent member agencies, the boards of supervisors and all the cities, and we tend to forget Biggs and Live Oak and Gridley, but they were important as we moved along. So those parent bodies kept going. Our state and federal elected officials and appointed officials were important as we started, and the SBFCA staff were just tremendous. They're led by Mike Inamini, who's in the audience today, and now Michael Bissett, who just doggedly carried out the project. They had different issues, such as issues with Indian bones and all those kinds of issues that kept coming along, and we had to move the project along. But thanks to Mike and Mike, we were able to get this done. I had to put on a different hat when I was appointed to the Central Valley Flood Protection Board in 2012. The mission of the board, of course, is to reduce the catastrophic flooding to people and property within California's Central Valley. We do that by adopting and implementing a state flood plan, serving as the non-federal sponsor with the Corps of Engineers, fulfilling the state's obligation to operate and maintain the levees and facilities overall, approving new levees and new facilities with permit conditions, maintaining certain lands that we own, and providing transparency through our public meetings. Our focus in the recent years, and this is one of the problems that we had at the local level, is we didn't have a plan for the Central Valley. We now do have a plan, and it serves as the blueprint for flood control in the Central Valley. The board and our staff worked closely with SBFCA back in 2013 to facilitate its highly aggressive schedule, which included the fastest turnaround of a federally approved 408 permit in the country for a large project. We also work closely and collaboratively with SBFCA in the unprecedented turnaround for the board-issued and federally approved permits for emergency repairs following the storms of 2017. The Feather River West Project Number 1 is remarkable for many reasons, not the least of which are the limited funding for a large scope of work called the Feather River West Levee Project, and the resilience to stay the course despite huge obstacles such as cultural resource issues, the 2017 storm season, Oroville spillway crisis, and pushing the state and federal agencies to think and act in unprecedented ways and out of the box. Congratulations, I think, are due to this board on the certification and staff on the certification of the 200-year project for the Cedar Butte Flood Control Agency. I think your success portends success for all California and demonstrates how local, state, and federal partnerships can and should work to the benefit of all Californians. I appreciate your allowing me to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Our next speaker is our Assembly Member James Gallagher, who was a founding SBFCA board member and a real advocate for flood risk reduction here in the region. So, James.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with all of you guys as we celebrate this milestone accomplishment. 14 years ago, man, it sure has gone by fast. But I remember when we got this started, and the community effort that really came together to make this all happen. Bill, as he always did, and I want to say a special thanks to Bill Edgar, our first director of SBFCA, who did a phenomenal job getting us off the ground. Definitely he deserves a round of applause for his many years of service. And Bill, as he always does, gives a very comprehensive overview. And I think he thanked a lot of some of the key people that were very much a part of that. Sally Serger, amazing lady. And I see Dennis back there representing. He was always with her too. But I remember when we started this out, because we were behind. This area was behind. We had the 1E bond had passed. They were really moving along over on the other side of the river, and there was just a group of community folks that said we can't let this opportunity pass us by. We've been through the 55 flood. We've seen the devastation of the 97 flood. We didn't want to be in that situation ever again. and we knew that it would take all of us coming together. Sally was one of those leaders. Francis Silva, of course, one of those amazing leaders. And the audience today, John Miller, who is our first chairman of the SBFCA board, I believe. And even before that, on LD1, always been a champion of that and helped bring a good group together, I think, in that first meeting. Appointees from all the different jurisdictions. But everybody came into that meeting, I know it was just an iron will and a determination to see this project through. We knew it could be done when other people were saying, you guys are behind, you're not on the ball. But we knew that we could do it. And so, one of the amazing things about being here today is just to see that all that work come to fruition and to have a 200-year certification, because that's what this was all about. We wanted to ensure that we had top-level flood protection for our region. And we're still working also to get 100-year flood protection for the lower parts of this basin. That work's not done yet, but we're making strides in that direction as well. But what I remember most is just, there were definitely people who said, you can't do it. Larry Munger, supervisor back here, I think also one of the first directors that was on that board, and also Dan Silva, that we said, we're going to come together, we're going to map out the plan, we got to get the JPA form, that was the first thing, and then, next go to our voters and talk to them about the importance of investing in this project. As many of you know, our areas, we don't like taxes very much. It's certainly not our first thing. We feel like we pay enough taxes in California. But one thing about this community, if you show them the benefit, if you show them what we're doing, you show them how this is going to benefit all of us, this community always comes through, and they did. Over 70% vote to support that first assessment to get all this off of the ground. And then there was the, countless meetings with so many different agencies. We had great partners in DWR who were working hand in hand with us. Thank you to them as well. I see we have Director Namath with us this afternoon as well. Thank you, Director. But just a tremendous team. We stole Mike and Amina from DWR, which I think was a great move for us. Am I supposed to say that? But it's definitely true. We saw the potential that he had, and he came in behind Bill. And I just remember those meetings, going to countless meetings, going back to D.C. to talk to the Army Corps of Engineers. Scott Shapiro, another just tremendous asset that we've had, guiding us along the way. I learned so much of different acronyms from Scott. Acronyms that maybe I would like to forget, like LERDS and, all these different things, working on the NFIP. I had the pleasure of, when I first became supervisor, was elected supervisor of pretty much my entire district getting remapped into a FEMA flood zone in 2008. So, hey, welcome to the Board of Supervisors. You now have mandatory flood insurance. It's really expensive. That was an interesting time. But we didn't sit on the sidelines, and immediately we said, look, we're not going to accept the status quo. We're going to start working. We worked on reforms to NFIP. And I will remember so many of those meetings going back to Washington, D.C. with people like Cash Gill, familiar faces on this board, Bo Shepard, Al Matna, of course. Charlie Hoppen, who's always been so active in water and flood control issues. There's really so many people to thank, and that are the reason that we are here, sitting here today, celebrating this. And I just, it really was a team effort. And I know we're not sitting here saying we're done. We still are working hard. I mean, Mike's calling me all the time about, hey, how are we going to get this Sutter bypass done? And that's definitely next on the agenda. I know Carla wants to help out with that as well. So we're going to continue to work together as this community. I put us up. We may be a small team, but we're always, we pack a punch. And look what this little engine that could accomplished, right? Standing here today, I couldn't be prouder of all the work that's been done, And certainly, you have my continued commitment to work through all the issues, all the different obstacles that come up, and there have been many, but we never let that get in the way, and we pushed our way through. We found the solutions. Kim Floyd, I got to give a big Kim Floyd's been amazing throughout this whole process. On PR, Barbara LeVake, I mean, Mrs. Flood Control, always keeping us focused on that, and her and Sally side by side, always getting us refocused. So, I mean, I know so many different people I could thank today, and so many people that deserve praise. The technical teams that have been involved with this throughout, and our partners in the agencies, our attorneys. I always say that our attorneys from Downey Brand, who helped us navigate a lot of different things. We appreciate you. And so, look, today is a testament to this community. Thank you to this board who continues to do great work moving forward. And let's just keep on trucking. As Sally would have said, the flood control is never over. It's never just a part-time thing. It's not a temporary thing. It is, we've always got to be focused on it and continuing to maintain and improve our levee system. So I'll leave you with that, and thank you all for being here today for this tremendous accomplishment.
Thank you, James. Our next speaker, I'd like to invite up Ms. Carla Nemeth, the Director of Department of Water Resources. As James indicated, the Department of Water Resources has been a major partner with SBFCA. They've funded over 75% of this 200-year levee improvement project. We're greatly appreciative of the department and all the staff that we've worked with. So, Carla, thank you.
You bet. Is this still on? Okay, great. Chair Kimmelshoe and members of the board and all these terrific members of the community that have, worn formal hats at, one point or another in this, by flood standards, short project, but by, I think, our life and livelihood, it sure does take a while. But it is absolutely a pleasure and an honor for me to be here this afternoon to help you all mark this fantastic milestone. I do want to thank Assemblymember Gallagher. I think he phrased it just perfectly, that little engine that could. And here we are many years later, the first communities in the Central Valley to reach that 20-year level of flood protection, and doing it 3 years earlier. So I don't want to say that never happens, but that rarely happens. So, and that only happened because of the ingenuity and the commitment that you all have shown over the many years at all levels in government. And that's really what it takes to keep these things moving. We have, leadership is not a job for just one person. It's really handing the baton off, especially when you have these large, very significant projects that take a while to get done. I think a lot of folks have been acknowledged, and I just echo my sincere appreciation for everybody who came together to get this good work done. I think a more personal note for me as the director of the Department of Water Resources, I got into government because I think we can get things done. That is absolutely my goal, is to cut through a lot of the just sort of human institutional drama that comes with trying to get real projects into the ground. And for a community like this to get it done, and to get it done so well, it's really important for my department, our department, to have that kind of collaborative muscle memory. What does success actually feel like when it can be so daunting, when you have so many different parties and so many things have to come together? This idea of let's just get started, because we're never going to get finished if we don't get started, and we don't have to have all the answers all at once, but we have to have the leadership in different places in the community, and we have to trust each other. We have to stay focused on the common goal. That's exactly what this is, and it's really important for the department to be part of these kinds of partnerships, because it helps us flex our memory. Yeah, we did that up there. we can do it in other places in California. So you all are leading the way. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. And I'm very enthusiastic about all the work that we need to do just down south of here. That Sutter bypass is very high on my priority list. And there are so many colleagues and trusted community members here that I now call friend. And I know that they will always phone me, Mr. Montna, Mr. Hoppin. I'm getting to know Mr. Conant on our Oroville Citizens Commission. I think we've got a great partnership with Assemblymember Gallagher. And so these guys always know to pick up the phone and call me when they see something's not quite right. And I count on that because all of it is helping our organizations stay focused, keep going, because we know we can be successful. So with that, I just want to thank you again for inviting me to participate. It's been an honor, and I'm just really delighted to participate in this joyful commemoration of success here in Sutter County. So thank you so much, and my hat's off to all of you.
Thank you very much, Carla. We appreciate that. Our next speaker, Steve Lambert, isn't here with us today. He wasn't able to make it. He was a former board member and one of our founding board members. So our next speaker, I am going to open it up after our next speaker. I'm going to open it up to a lot of our former board members who are here in the audience. But I'd like to invite up Mr. Mike Inamine, our former executive director. Mike.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Again, my name's Mike Inamine. I was employed by SBFCA between 2011 and early 2019. I am no longer staff to SBFCA, so I think I can relate this story pretty safely. Back in 2011, when I told some folks that I respect and admire and still do that I was going to go work for SBFCA, they warned me not to do that. And I won't quote anybody, but the comments I got from not a few people, but several people, with that, Yuba City Basin, those folks are never going to get their act together. The politics up there and the internal infighting, it's brutal. They're going nowhere soon. So fast forward to today. First urban area represented by SBFCA to get to 200-year level of flood protection before anybody else in the state since SB 5 was passed in 2007. That's a tremendous achievement, and it's a credit to this larger community. And I'd like to recognize also a lot of local unsung heroes who led the charge you don't hear from. Folks like Francis and Sally. Those folks just never lost sight of the ball. And now their work, as well as the work of everybody in this room and this board, are going to be benefiting generations of folks, just like Francis and Sally, residents that they'll never know. And it's also a credit, I think, to this board, who in my experience always did the right thing. It was often at the 11th hour, there was a lot of strife, and again, some brutal local politics, as I'm sure a few folk can attest to, difficult, complex issues. But this board always did the right thing, and I've worked for a couple of boards, and I think this board was remarkable for that stick-to-itiveness. So I'd just like to close by, again, congratulating SBFCA and this great community on achieving this tremendous milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So I want to open it up to former board members. I'd first like to invite Barbara, if you would like to come up and say some words. Barbara, you've been a true advocate for flood protection in the region. I'm not going to call out the other board members after, but you're welcome to join after Barbara's done.
Okay, well, please bear with me. This might be a little difficult since Fran and Sally were two of my dearest friends. So let me just start by just quickly telling some of you who don't know this. is that for some reason, Fran Silva ended up in my living room in about 1975. And we're neighbors. I live out in the two-door area, so do the Surgers. And he proceeded, so I was a young mother with 2 small children, and he proceeded to tell me how there was like 8 to 10 feet of water in my house on O'Banion Road. Now, I came from Merced County. We didn't flood down there. And I was just shocked. I couldn't believe it. Fast forward a few more years, I meet Sally. She invites me to a meet and greet for a school board member. We connected immediately. We both share the same nationality of being Portuguese, so we really did hit it off. And so we all became very close friends, and fast forward to flood control issues and improving the levees. And basically, Sally and I were joined at the hips in terms of moving forward and advocating and trying to get folks to support the benefit assessment. As John Miller whispered in my ear when we were sitting there, he said, we twisted a lot of arms. It was not easy. It was an organized committee. It was an organized advocacy group. We raised the money. We hired a consultant who had done the benefit assessments for the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency Board. That's how I met Mr. Edgar when I sat on that very first board umpteen years ago. And of course, at the time when we moved forward, I also knew that Bill was the person that we needed to move SBFCA forward. So I just want to thank all of you and my neighbors, Al Matna and Charlie Hoppen, who've been there from day one, and many of you in the audience. And a shout out to Drew, who manages Levy District 1. He does a great job. And to the 2 Mikes who I've worked with, and Scott, it's great to see everyone. And Kim, where's Kim? Kim, who had some heavy lifting to do on rights of way and things throughout the process, and so many people, and it's so great to see the Surger family here. I am going to continue to honor Sally and Fran's legacy as we move forward, and we'll continue to work on these flood control issues, because as everyone said, we're not done yet. And since I live in the southern part of the county, I really want to get things done. So anyway, thank you very much, and congratulations for this accomplishment to all of you. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Barbara. Thank you. Are any other former board members like to say anything? Okay, I'm going to open it up. We have a lot of consultants here. So there's half the audience is part of our consultant team who helped produce this 200-year certification. So I want to open it up if there's anybody from our consultant team. I know Dave Peterson drove all the way from Tahoe to be here today. And Dave, would you like to start it out? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's been a while. I retired, so I get to say things without any repercussions here. So, yeah.
Okay, that's enough, Dave. So next speaker,
that's
please.
enough. Okay. So, yeah, I started with this in 2006 and helped Bill get things rolling here. I was on the technical side, the engineering, kind of working with the Corps of Engineers and developing the plan that we eventually moved forward with. So got to see kind of the birth of an organization. Bill was the best startup guy ever. I mean, he knows how to put things together, and the initial board was very supportive of the whole thing. When it came time to implement, Bill said, it's time to get an engineer in here to lead this organization. So Mike Inamina was recruited to really take us through the design and construction phase, and he took it a long way. And then Michael Bissett took it home. So outstanding leadership from the management of this organization. And I think the pool of consultants that worked on this thing were really the A-team. It's very gratifying for me to actually look back at a project and see something made it all the way through. That's really cool. And so I congratulate everybody, and I really was happy to be a part of this thing and happy to see a community come together, bi-county community. That's quite an accomplishment. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else from our consultant team? How about our SBFCA staff member team? Would anybody like to say any words? And I'm looking towards our legal counsel right next to me. Would you like to say anything?
I'll do my best not to repeat anything that's already been said. I guess I owe a lot of gratitude to Bill Edgar for setting the tone, recognizing that it took investment to achieve what we had to achieve. That meant staff meetings once a week for an hour and a half to work through every issue and actually get it done. And that generates camaraderie. That generates a team that goes camping together every year because you build friendships out of it. And I really couldn't have asked for a more supportive board over the years. Every time we had an ask, there was a board member who was willing to step up and say, point me in the right direction, tell me what to say, I'll go do it. And I'm very grateful for that. So I'll just endorse what everyone else said. And I'll also acknowledge my partner, Andrea Clark, who's in the back over there, because there's only one seat for council up here, and acknowledge that I couldn't have done it without her partnership on this project as well. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Scott.
And I'm sorry, but I would be rude and remiss if I didn't acknowledge Scott McElhern as well, who's in the audience, who headed our land acquisition team and handled all of the legal issues associated with every property we had to acquire, and there were a lot of properties. So thank you, Scott.
Kim.
Is it on? So I hadn't planned on saying anything, but Chair Kimmelshoe, board members, former board members, people who trusted in this agency to do the right thing, I just want to speak on behalf of the property owners because I get to talk to them quite often. I manage the hotline to this day for this agency, answering questions about the annual property assessments. And on behalf of property owners, I want to say thank you. Trust in any form is a very fragile thing, but trust in government agencies is even more so. And when we, back in 2010, I came on board in 2009, but in 2010, when we stood before property owners and asked them to commit annual payments, property assessments, and trust us with those so that we could deliver on the promise that we're delivering today. And we asked them to trust us, they did. And it's so gratifying to be able to see this come together today, that we delivered on that promise and we honored that trust. Just wanted to add one more reminder that we still promised property owners in the southern portion of our basin that we will provide 100-year flood protection to them and provide some regulatory impact relief from the FEMA Special Flood Hazard Area. I look forward to continuing to working with this board, with this amazing consultant team, and our very passionate community members to make that happen. And I want to do a special thanks to Barbara and then Sally, if she were here today. So when we were doing the assessment, we were meeting with property owners, and one of our largest assessees is SunSuite. And we were sitting in that meeting, and Barbara and Sally were there to talk about the impacts to the community. I was there to provide information about the methodology behind the assessment. And at one point, the general manager for SunSuite turned to me and he said, "Why do you even care? You don't live here." And I was taken aback because I had forgotten that I don't live here. I had spent so much time here, and Sally and Barbara had made me feel so much a part of this community that I took ownership in it, and it was important to me too. So I want to thank Barbara. I wish I could thank Sally, but I'm happy that we were able to deliver on that today.
Mr. Wurzel.
I didn't prepare anything either, but one thing I wanted to acknowledge in the support that I had in helping administer the agency's finances is the team in Yuba City. The staff here is top notch, and that comes from the leadership of the council and others, and we could not have gotten what we did done without their support and cooperation and guidance. We moved a lot of money through this agency really fast. I have the fortunate opportunity to represent almost all the urban agencies in the Central Valley on their finances and helping them administer their grants. And I use SBFCA as a standard. in terms of counseling other clients on how to do things right. The support from Yuba City was top notch. Their finance department, other folks that behind the scenes made things work, pushing checks out every minute that we needed them. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with the agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth, and thank you for all your work. Mr. Smith, Tom is the chief or the president of our independent panel of experts. So they reviewed all our design plans and approved them before we were able to get out into construction. So Tom.
Thank you, Michael. I too didn't prepare anything, but this is giant. And I just couldn't let it go without being one of the people to say congratulations to you. I've been working in flood control rivers and levees for, well, it's embarrassing, it's more than 50 years now, but proud of all the work. This is one of the finest projects, and it was not thrown together. It was done quickly. But I do want to say, as chairman of the independent panel of experts that has reviewed and stayed with the designs and the constructions, all construction all the way through, there have not been any shortcuts in quality or challenges to the design to make sure that we have provided the residents with the promised flood protection. So I just want to add, so proud to be part of the team. Congratulations to all of you. This is giant. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for all your work with our team. Mr. Chairman, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you and the board.
Thank you, Michael, and I'm going to open up to the board. I think I'll start over here on my left-hand side. I know some people have been jotting down some notes feverishly, so go ahead. Anybody want to speak over here? Al?
Sure. Well, thank you all for being here today. I come at flood control from the heart because I still can recall 1955, standing on my front porch out here on a place called Carlson Road on Gil Sizer Slough and watching houses, and I can still hear the roar of that. I was 10 years old. Still hear the roar of that water going. We hightailed it for Sutter. We were on high ground and thought, we never want this to happen again. And Francis Silva's leadership, we just can't say enough, and I hate to be repetitive, but Fran taught us flood fighting. I can tell you where I was with Francis in '87 when Marysville broke. I can tell you where I was with Francis in '97 when Broadway broke and Linda. And where I was with him when we almost lost Orville Dam. And the guy taught us so much. He's a book of knowledge about those levees. When we do our levee tours, he'd be in that bus and it was like, John Sutter talking or something. The guy was amazing. And then, of course, Sally and Barbara and John and Ken Calhoun, don't want to forget Ken, was a part of the original team, made all this happen. And the grace of God got Bill to start this thing, Bill Edgar. And through the rough patches, when we'd have to peel Francis off the ceiling, Bill had a really good spatula to get him off of there when he didn't think Levee District 1 was being protected. Right, Bill? And it was quite, and of course, then we fortunately get Mike to come in with Scott's team and Andrea. Can you just imagine, look at this community from here to Orville is together on this board, protecting the citizens of this county. But our compadre came along over here. We ran the State Water Control Board for 7 years and decided he was going to put his hat in this ring, made all the difference in the world because of his experience. But let's pat ourselves on the back now, but we have to, I do farm in the bottom half of this county. I saw it 20 feet deep there in 1955. I saw my dad and his bunch of farmers blow that levee to get the water out of here. And that's what happens because it can't get out of Sutter County. And we have to get these levees fixed over here. Director Nemeth, I know you're very supportive, and we've got to get that done. because we're not safe. We got all this done, pretty much, get the 100-year done. We've got to get that done, and I know SBFCA is shovel-ready, ready to go, Michael, and ready to run the project and write checks, right? Yeah. So hopefully we can get that started. And I just want to thank this community for the effort for flood protection. It's unbelievable. James, you've been there every minute. And thank you for that. So thank you for being here today, and I'm real honored to be part of this organization.
Charlie?
I always hate to follow Al because he said most of it already, but you know, it's easy for me, having been on a lot of boards and tried to do a lot of things, to sit here during certification time and take credit for something that all of those that preceded me really did the legwork on. If it hadn't been for the community outreach with Barbara and Sally and Kim and John and Ken Calhoun and others, this would have never happened, because you just don't take that lightly, that people are going to vote to assess themselves. And that is not a tax, it's an assessment. You have to remember that. We just assessed ourselves. But without that foresight, this would have never happened. I won't go through all the names again. When I hear Fran, who we all love dearly and learn so much from, referred to the Lion of the Levee, which I've heard 1,000 times, it's odd to me that I've never heard Sally Serger referred to as the Lioness of the Levee, because Sally would sit there and lick her paws and be very quiet until somebody needed to have their face gotten into, and then, oh my God, here comes Sally Serger. And she did a wonderful job for us. We all love her and miss her a great deal. It's been a pleasure. I've worked with a lot of attorneys in my life. I've had a few in my family that I was glad I didn't have to work with. But Scott and Andrea, you've both taught me a lot about keeping my mouth shut sometimes when I was on the ceiling, and I appreciate your counsel very much. Mikey and Amina, you know, you're an anomaly in the engineering world, because you understand engineering, which a lot of people with engineers' minds do, but you also have a political sense, which not very many engineers have. And that mingling of your engineering talent and your political ability has meant a great deal to us. It's been very good. You've set the stage for Michael Bissett to try and bring this to completion. Carla, the last time we were together, we were in a social setting where everybody was talking about their kids and what they were going to do on vacation, and I had a hold of your ear and wouldn't let go because of the Sutter Bypass West Levee, so I will apologize to that. However, you know, what we need is not to have DWR fund a levee. We just need construction design for a state levee that we're willing to cost share with, so that when the opportunity comes around, and as you well know, being in the position you're in, opportunities just aren't sitting on a shelf someplace. When an opportunity comes by, you need to be able to say, hey, I'm ready to go. Here's my design. Where's your damn money? And we're not asking you to fund the whole thing, but if we had a cost share with this design construction, it would be invaluable. And I promise, if we're ever in a social setting again, I'm going to ask you how your kids are and tell you your hair looks great. And I'll keep my damn mouth shut, because I hate to have you cringe every time I come into the room. But thank you for being here, and thank you all. This is an important day for us. Thanks.
Okay, anybody to my right want to follow those two? Matt?
I'll start. First of all, I'd like to say something about Francis Silva. Francis was fought levees, flood protection, levee fights, flood fights for over 80 years. 80 years, people. He was a founding member of this organization. I mean, those two things are incredible. And we also closed our meeting in memory of Francis, the Board of Supervisors, 2 meetings ago. Great individual, great community member. Then I want to move on to a few things. First of all, I'd like to thank this community for their support in passing the assessments that were passed by the by overwhelming support of the community. It allowed these projects to be built at or under budget. I'm still going to say that, under budget, Todd, because it really was. And actually, there's not 37 miles. There's another 4.5 miles from Star Bend to 99 was also built during this time frame. Now, it's not part of the 200-year flood protection, the 100 side, but still it's major levee repair that was done way more than we had thought we'd get to at this point. However, we're not done. We've got the bypass we've got to deal with. It will devastate this community if there's a failure in that bypass. We will lose 99, a major artery throughout the state that has to be maintained, and you will lose it for an extended period of time. Al, I have no idea how many months it would take to get all that water out so you could run a 99. A long time. And then one last thing is this whole community benefited by these flood improvements. The new flood maps call for a reduction in an elevation of 3 feet. Many people's homes that had to maintain flood insurance now will not have to do that. So I think that's a tremendous thing to have happen. And I would like to thank the community for their support in this project. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everyone here today and those who aren't with us here today. You know, I was 17 years old in 1997 when the Meridian levee went down, and I remember getting out of high school that day and a couple of us football players going over there and helping with sandbags and so forth, and helping sandbag the local schools and so forth. And those of you that have lived through it, you know, I've gone through 1997 and 1985. I was 5 years old, but my dad went through that, and he was there in 1955 helping out in Meridian and so forth. And I think it's really important for future generations to really pay attention to what's going on and look at those that are serving and have served, and know how grateful we are to everyone that's helped out in this, because there's a lot of lives that are going to be saved, and a lot of lives have been saved throughout these levee repairs, and it's all because of people like yourselves that have been out here, and those that are going to serve and those that continue to serve. And I'm personally very grateful for it, and thank you to everyone. Thank you for everything.
Councilwoman Espandola.
Thank you for announcing me.
You're welcome.
That's very nice of you. It is really difficult to talk about a subject when you actually don't really know the subject. And when I got appointed to this committee, it was a tremendous amount to learn and to understand how important it is really to have our levees protect our community. But I'm also, in my heritage and community, I honor those who were here before us. And Barbara LeVake, I did not understand or know how deeply you and Francis and Sally built this for all of us to continue to do the good work. And I want to thank you personally just for all your work and you've done. Thank you so much. But I am extremely committed to make sure that our community is safe. And I'm so proud of the effort of all of you who have spoken, and for our board here. It's really interesting, just in the minutes that we have talked, you can see the dynamics already. I think Bill said earlier, or Mike said, about, Supervisor Conant already saying some things that are kind of like, hey, that's not what we all thought we were going to say. But you know what? That's what makes us a unique community, because if we all thought the same way, we would never possibly get anything done. But when it needs to get done, we do it. I think it's important for our partners in DWR to understand that when the significance of something like this is done, that it's an example for communities across the state to understand that this can be done other places, and utilize the work of the example from here to others. And so From the City Council, Councilman Harris is not able to speak on the Zoom, so I am speaking on behalf of both of us. And we just like to congratulate you, and also our Mayor Boomgarden is here, and all of us to support and help with this flood control. And hopefully we will work on the additional monies for the design and be able to come to some group understanding of that. I'd be more than happy to work through that with Michael and our attorneys, and we're here, all of us, in concert to get this going and keep it going. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Okay, just a couple quick items. I wish my colleague Bill Connolly was here, and I just want to thank this board for going ahead with the Oroville Wildlife Area, which is not necessarily in our purview, but it worked out for us up in northern part of this area to put together a wildlife area that, like I said in my opening comments, is very important for wildlife, but also for flood protection up there. So I want to thank this board and those of you that were on it when Bill brought that forward. And actually, Bill was kind of the father of that item. So thank you very much. And a couple other thank yous. Before I have Al Montner read our resolution, Al, do you have that in front of you? Okay, just a few minutes and I'll get to you on that. But I want to thank the executives who put together, and their staff for putting together this board over the years. I'm very, very new, like Grace, on this board, but very, very impressed with what has happened. So Bill, Mike, and Michael, and your staff, thank you very much, and I think they all deserve a round of applause. And Director Nemeth, thank you so very much for being here today, and thank you for your agency's partnership with us. Obviously, we could not have done all of this without your agency and your help. So thank you from the bottom of our heart, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Assemblyman Gallagher, maybe he took off already, but great to have him here as well. So with that, I'm going to have Al Montner read the resolution that we're going to approve. And after we approve that, we're going to close the meeting. We'll have the video, and then we'll meet outside to have some fellowship time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank Carla Nemeth for being here today. It means a lot to the community. Have the director come up and support us. Thank you. Resolution 2021-09. Whereas Francis Silva first volunteered to flood fight at the age of 15 by joining his neighbors in sandbagging the West Feather River levee against rising waters and threat of failure. And whereas his home and property were flooded in December 1955 when a segment of the West Feather River levee failed, sending a wall of water into south of Yuba City and killing 38 people. And whereas Mr. Francis Silva has dedicated more than 82 years of volunteer service to the levee operations and maintenance of flood fighting in Sutter County, thereby reducing flood risk and protecting lives and livelihoods. And whereas he was a staunch advocate for improved flood protection through stronger levees, earning the nickname Lion of the Levees. And whereas he was appointed to Levee District 1 Board of Directors in 1968, a position he held until his passing. And whereas he was key to financing and construction of the Star Bend Setback Levee Project, which reduces the Feather River water surface elevation by nearly a foot in a 100-year storm event. And whereas he helped organize the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency in 2007 and was a founding and active board member. And whereas his involvement has been critical to the financing and implementation of the Feather River West Levee Project 1, emergency repairs in Yuba City, and completion of the Laurel Avenue project. And whereas he continued to advocate for state and federal funding to fix the remainder of the West Feather River and Sutter Bypass levees in the southern portion of Yuba Sutter Basin. And whereas on Wednesday, September 15, 2021, at the age of 99, Mr. Silva passed away having seen the completion of scores of levee miles on the Feather River. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency Board of Directors hereby dedicates the Feather River West Levee Project 1 to Mr. Silva by naming it the Francis Silva Memorial Feather River West Levee Project 1. Mr. Chairman, also move.
Second. So we have a motion and a second. Tara, is there any public comment? Any comments from the board?
And Mr. Chair, I'll just note that in addition to the moving of the resolution, the board will also need to move approving and posting the ULOP EVD1 substantial evidence in the record.
Shall we do that in two separate motions or as one?
It's board's discretion.
Okay, so we'll do this resolution first and then we'll do that second. So we'll do a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
Just a little discussion before we.
Yes, sir.
We had a board meeting on September 13th. Francis attended that board meeting. Charlie was hunting. He was working, I'm sure. Francis attended that board meeting. He made motions. He made a discussion. Drew was there helping him, and he made that board meeting 2 days before he passed away.
Thank you for that, Al. Appreciate it. So with that, Tara, would you like to call the roll on the first motion?
Matt Conant,
Aye.
Mike Ziegenmeyer, Bruce Johnson, Todd Kimmelshoe,
Aye.
Bo Shepherd, Sean Harris on Zoom, Grace Espandola. No. Great, thank you.
I don't know if that's even legal.
Charlie Hoppin, Al Montna,
Aye.
Lac Vergog,
Yes.
and Mike Morris.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Al, and that motion and reading that resolution. Appreciate it very much. Okay, then we'll go on to the second item.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there a public comment? Okay. Is there comment from the board? Okay. With that, we'll call the roll again. Thank you.
Matt Conant,
Aye.
Mike Ziegenmeyer, Bruce Johnson,
Yes.
Bill Con, oh, he's not on there anymore, sorry. Todd Kimmelshoe,
Aye.
Bo Shepherd, Sean Harris,
Aye.
Grace Espandola,
Aye.
Charlie Hoppin, Al Montna,
Aye.
Lac Vergog,
Yes.
and Mike Morris.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we have two more items on the agenda, which I believe we will move forward to the next meeting, if that's all right with you, Mr.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, unless we have questions from the board on either of those items.
Yeah, the items are present and file the monthly financial report, which I'm sure is solid, and presentation and file the program, a project update, which we can hear about at the next meeting. And our next meeting is November 10th at 1 p.m. We do meet in secret sometimes, no. Anyway, with that, yeah, we can do Zoom on that. With that, I would just like to close this meeting in honor of both Francis Silva and Sally Serger, and if you don't mind, 30 seconds of silent reflection. Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting formally, and then we will have the video. Is that correct, Michael?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'd like to take a minute, if I could, to present a plaque to one of the local residents whose voice is always heard and was instrumental in getting this project started a few short years ago. Sally Serger, would you come forward, please? Sally, I'd like to present this plaque to you. Now, you probably have 1,000 of these plaques and know what they are. But this reads to an outstanding service and dedication to the residents of the County of Sutter in helping to provide increased flood protection. Sally's continued enthusiasm in leading the levee tours and supporting the benefit assessment has provided the community with improved public safety. This is very important. She's a wonderful lady, and I still forgive her for talking me into taking this job in the first place.
I'm Francis Silver, and I'm chairman of the board of this levee district number 1, and I have been for 52 years, and I've been chairman for 45 years, so I've been here a long time. Levee District 1 is the oldest district operating continuously. We are 147 years. We were organized in 1869. There was rumors that I was on the first board, but I wasn't. We have 17 miles of levee. And there was not good levees. There was seepage, and we had over 100 and some boils, and it broke in 55. Now Mike and Sarabuka came in, and they put a core slurry wall clear to Star Bend, which is about, I don't know what, 10 miles of our levee probably. And he's made me obsolete there because they don't need me anymore. It's not going to leak. In 97, it broke on the other side, and it broke on that side of us. We didn't break, but we put out 233,000 sandbags in 8 days. And the reason we know the count, that were biodegradable bags, and we had to go out and pick them all up. And we hauled them back and dumped. We got a big yard out here, and hired a couple women to dump the sand out and stack the things, so they counted them as they dumped them. And we ended up with a pile of sand bigger than this building, and put free sand, in 2 weeks it was gone. People come and haul it off. So, but that's why we didn't break in 97, is because we put the sandbags out when we went after.
I do have a question for the people of Sutter County, particularly the ones that live out here. Have you ever seen a more beautiful sight in your life than those scrapers building us a brand new levee? Great day, great day. All right. I'm going to talk just a tiny bit about Star Bend here. Barbara already told you that I sandbagged here in 1938, 1942, 1955, 1964, 86, and 97. And every year it got worse. Didn't get any better. So when I went on to the board in 1968, one of my goals was to get Shanghai Bend straightened and Star Bend straightened. Well, here it is, 41 years later. Never getting it straight, so I guess I don't work too fast. But I'm kind of glad that we didn't get it straightened sooner because of the technology we have today. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as slurry walls. Wouldn't have the ground underneath the new levee was no better than the ground under the old levee. So we have a slurry wall out there from 45 to 85 feet. So basically, we got more levee under the ground than we do above the ground. But that'll be a permanent levee, 100% safe, and that's what we're after.
Somebody that could have standing ovation would be perfect. 50 years on this board.
Thank you. But anyway, thank you. I want to thank everybody for keeping me on the board. I was reelected, I think, 10 times. But I've been on the levee since 1937. I've dedicated my whole life to it, and I'm real happy that it happened. And I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you very much. I actually don't have any speech because I didn't know whether I'd make the 150 years. But I'd like to say something about the people of Sutter County. They're the ones that's kept us here for the 150 years. They paid the taxes, they supported us, and many years have gone by. And I came on the board in 1964, and we didn't pass an assessment until 1986. And then we went from 86 to 99 before we passed the second one. And we've been operating on that particular amount for 1 year or whatever.
And we have here today an example of a generation that stepped forward, in this case some 50 plus years ago, said we have a problem, we need to improve the levees. Basically as a result of what happened with these photos here, the flood of 55. Well then tell us.
You know what makes a good director and a good citizen when you get your ass flooded in the 55.
Thank you, and I think we'll adjourn outside. Is that right, Michael?
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Again, thank you all for coming. Like I said, next we have another meeting next month. If you'd like to attend, we'd love to have you.
I'll come back.